18th, and really can't stress enough to make sure you're registered, all your friends are registered, relatives, and vote by mail, and vote early and often. Okay, so we have our mayoral candidates, Shelly Petrolia, and Jim Chard. Okay, so I'm going to try to move us along, but again, same thing, I'll try to stand up when your time is up. So if you could try to keep it to around 2 or 3 minutes for your opening, and then a minute per question, that would be great. Shelly will start with you, and then we'll reverse it back and forth. And what are your achievements that can be traced to you specific? Oh, so sorry. Opening statements, thank you. Not ready for prime time.
That's all right. First of all, I want to say thank you all for having us here, and I see some familiar faces from last weekend at the Democratic Women's Club at Palm Beach. It was packed, and it was a great turnout, so this is really fantastic. My name is Shelly Petrolia. I'm born and raised in Palm Beach County. I've made Delray home, my home, for about 25 years, and I'm raising 4 boys here, ages 14 to 17. My husband and I are real estate agents. We worked this area, kind of bringing people into Delray when it was back in the day where a lot of people wouldn't buy here, so we bought here, and we've loved it, and we've known that it's been the right decision for us ever since. I've been on the commission for 5 years. When I got onto the commission, things weren't as going very well. We were doing things that actually were not legal even. So there was a huge uphill battle to climb for those of us that were put on the commission back in 2013. When I went knocking on the doors, what I did find out, though, is that there was a lot of people who didn't believe in their government anymore. They felt very disconnected. So what I did was I made it my goal to make sure that whatever I promised to the people, I was going to deliver. That was the way that I decided to come onto the commission and just make sure that people understood that you can have faith in government, and there are people out there that do want to serve and want to do what the people want and will listen. And so that's really where I started, and as I progressed in the 5 years, I have done those things. I wanted to make sure that people knew that when I talked about going back and getting bids on contracts, our largest as a matter of fact, that I wasn't just saying that at your door. Because a lot of times what happens is that at this point in time, it's a sales job, and you only know who that person is after they get into office as to whether or not they're going to deliver. And I can tell you that it hasn't been easy, because a lot of times I'm the one person who votes against, or one person who stands up for what I believe is the right thing, and I have the reasons because I've done my background work. But it is something that I feel is very important. Because I think that it really does speak to people like you and me that sometimes feel like we do not have a voice when we are being represented by those that we're electing into the various positions. As your next mayor, you can count on me doing more of the same. I am going to be your watchdog, not a lapdog for special interests. And I think that a lot of the special interests have recognized that, so you'll probably not see a lot of special interests putting their endorsements behind me, and that's just fine, because all I'm looking for is your endorsements. That's the most important endorsement to me. And also I want to make sure that you understand that I'm here to protect, and part of that protection is what we all have been sold as far as what Delray is to us. And it's not something that someone else coming in has determined because it makes sense to them for their bottom line in their pockets that we need to change into. The authenticity of Delray is palpable. Everybody in this room knows it. I do too. And that's why I'm here. I feel as though we have to have representation that understands that. As a lifelong Florida resident, I get it. And I have had the experience of working on this commission for the past 5 years, and so there's no one that I feel is more qualified to lead this city come March of 2018. Thank you.
I'm going to stand up because the previous people standing up, I could actually see them from the back. It's a little hard when you're down low here. I decided to run for mayor just 1 year after I was elected to the city commission, because I don't think things are going right. I don't think the last 5 years has accomplished as much as we might like. We cannot get things through the buildings department, planning department. Projects take way too long. But most importantly, we have an attitude right now, I believe, that we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. That we can only tackle certain parts of the city and not all of the cities. I think that when I got elected from nearly every precinct in the city. And that's because I recognize the fact that nobody should be left out, whether it's the Northwest, Southwest, whether it's Palm Trail, whether it's Tropic Isle, whether it's Shadow Lane, Rainberry Woods. Everybody deserves an interest and support from the city government. We have a lot of initiatives that have been started, from sea level rise to housing preservation to development on West Atlantic, and they don't go anyplace. We hear them up there on the city commission, we bless them and approve them, and then they disappear. And that's why I ran in the first place. I have been working as a volunteer in the city for somewhere between 5 and 6 years. And I brought a lot of things to the city. I brought a 46-page report on how we could make this really Tree City USA, rather than just saying it to put punch behind the words. I brought, with the help of Human Powered Del Rey, a master plan for bike and ped. That was unanimously approved by this city commission. Nothing's been done about that. And we spoke about alleys earlier. The alleys were a key component of that plan, that they need to be saved, and they're an alternative transportation system for walking and biking that can take traffic and congestion off of our streets and reduce the amount of parking that is required. So that's why I'm running, that's who I am. I kind of consider myself an urban nerd. I do have a couple of master's degrees. If we go back in history, I'm not going to go back into campaigning when I was 3 months old, although I am a lifelong Democrat. But I prepared for this job for a long, long time, whether that's in the private sector or the public sector, big cities, small cities. And I really think that sort of my expertise is in areas of mobility, sober homes. I spent a lot of time on sober homes, economic development, and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you for keeping within the time frame. Okay, the first question, and this refers to, some of you may have been en route here tonight, but apparently the president said something about people who come here from those, I'll say poop hole, but he didn't say poop, countries, referring to some African nations. So the question is, in consideration of the large Delray population who are of Haitian origin, our neighbors or friends